Family disputes can make us feel isolated and vulnerable. Maybe you're going through a divorce or a legal dispute about your kids. Perhaps you've spent hours on Google or have even posted anonymously on Facebook to see what others have to say. But are you getting the actual information and support that you're looking for? Our podcast, Legal Lounge, aims to dispel misinformation and downright bad legal information to empower anyone with questions about their family, their children, their finances, their marriage, and the law. As a team focused exclusively on family law matters, we aim to help listeners not only with the information they need, but also with the hope that their situation has a solution. Short disclaimer, please note this podcast is for educational purposes only, and the information should not be relied upon as legal advice or for legal purposes. I'm excited to have my friend Brynn with me here today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Brynn.
My name is Brynn Ungerleider, and I am the owner and founder of Premier Nanny Network, a nationwide nanny and elder care agency.
You are one of many divorce professionals that we work with on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Can you tell us a little bit about your history and what brought you to the divorce realm, especially as it relates to nanny services?
I am the product of divorce. I've also been divorced. And throughout my years of, over 20 years of being a nanny and household manager, I've worked for many parents that are either divorced or were going through divorce and offering that flexibility between their households, offering care for their children consistently between both households. And now that I have started my own agency, I am doing my part to educate other nannies to be that reliable resource for families that are undergoing divorce or are divorced so that the children are receiving the consistent, reliable care that they deserve. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the children during divorce, for me, in my opinion.
I think a lot of the listeners probably expected to only hear about legal discussions and laws and statutes. And here we are, we're talking about nanny services. I really do admire you for bringing awareness to that facet of separation and
Thank you.
divorce. Yeah. So were you a nanny initially, or how'd you get into the nanny field?
Yes, so I actually started babysitting when I was around 12 to afford CDs at the mall, not to age myself. I couldn't believe that people were paying me to watch their children and eat mac and cheese, and I thought it was the best thing in the world. And then as I continued to grow, I shifted more into a nanny role, which is a little bit more consistent to me. Babysitting is like a date night, Friday night, parents go out, whereas a nanny is someone that is very consistent in your household. It's a very intimate relationship. They're there, they become part of the family. And, we are essentially picking up a lot of those pieces that may be kind of slipping through the cracks or just offering that extra set of hands. And so I've nannied for families, that could barely afford to pay me to come by after school for a couple hours to, families that have lost a parent and they're trying to navigate that soul crushing change in their world, to families that have gone through divorce or are going through divorce. I've nannied for billionaires whose great 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 grandchildren will never have to worry or ever have to work. And I just have to say that throughout any type of family dynamic, having someone around that's consistent, reliable, trustworthy is monumental, not only for parent sanity, but for the children and feeling supported. And sometimes, in my experience, primarily, a lot of children would confide in me a lot of things that they wouldn't even feel comfortable telling their parents. And so it really helped me kind of navigate those relationships as well of, oh my gosh, I do need to tell your parents about this. Do I have your permission to do so? And I think that, nannying in that industry is such a valuable resource that a lot of families don't know about, and they don't want to look at it because it's considered a quote unquote luxury when it's not. And anybody can afford a nanny as long as they are budgeting wisely and utilizing the resources that are available, such as my agency.
So when did you found Premier Nanny Network?
I founded Premier Nanny Network in January of 2024. However, throughout the course of my over 20 years in this industry, I have paired families with nannies all over the country. And it took a couple of friends telling me, hey, you're really good at this. You should just do this. And as a former nanny, I never worked with an agency because back in the day, they would take money from your hourly that you were accruing every single day. Whereas I structured my agency to just take a flat fee from families and not take from the nannies. And so, throughout the course of everyone encouraging me to start this agency, it's been really fun, and it's just been one of those things where I did it on the side for fun, and then it's quickly morphed into a full-time gig, and I was able to, step away from my job and focus on this full time. And then, I had a door open into the divorce world, which I didn't start my agency thinking like I want to help divorced parents, but it just seems like it continues to gravitate toward that realm. And I'm forever grateful for it because I felt during my parents' divorce like I was an afterthought and I
Mm,
wasn't very important. And I felt many times that I couldn't go and talk to a parent because I could tell they were so stressed out
mm.
and or dishing about the other parent and complaining about my mom complaining about my dad or vice versa. So creating an outlet for divorced families to work with a nanny and my nanny agency just felt like a no-brainer after all of these doors have been opening. So here I am.
Nice. Well, we're glad to have you, because at
Thank
least
you.
on my side as a family law attorney, we generally think about the children, trying to get them resources, say therapy or guidance counseling, or maybe we even need to appoint a best interest attorney or guardian ad litem. And I think, to your credit, we often lose out on the conversation about, well, who's in the house already? And maybe
Mhm.
there is a nanny, or maybe we need to bring in a nanny, not necessarily for legal purposes, but really to support that safe environment and emotionally stable environment for children.
Absolutely. I have experience working for many divorced families as a nanny myself. And, it was just wonderful to be that neutral party. There was one example where the little boy I was nannying for at the time left his soccer cleats at his dad's house, and the dad was adamant that the wife could never, ever step foot on his property. But I could. So,
Mhm.
I scooted over to the house real quick and grabbed little guy's soccer cleats, and I made it in time to soccer practice for him to have his cleats. And, it was not a big deal at all. The dad was absolutely okay with it, obviously, even though it was my week on with the mom. Like, oh, yeah, of course, go grab his cleats. And, it's just kind of that's one of my favorite examples to show the neutrality of a nanny to be able to, walk graciously between both households. And we're not there to be, a therapist or, an outlet, but we often are. And I think it's just something that people need to, possibly look into the benefits of a nanny and what we're able to offer, because at the end of the day, whether your children talk about it or not, they are suffering with this change. They're suffering with this transition. They're trying to figure out how to adjust to this new normal of having two households, of having parents that don't see each other or maybe speak kindly of one another. And having a nanny there as a resource is so much more than someone that's just watching your children. They're able
Mhm.
to kind of partake in some of that you know turmoil that your children may be experiencing. And another example, a little girl was really acting out in school after her parents' divorce, and I was a nanny for that family, and she confided in me that she just felt like she couldn't talk to anyone because both of her parents were always yelling at one another. And so she talked to me about it, and once I asked for her permission to bring it up to her parents, reluctantly, after a little while, she gave me permission. And we were able to have a conversation about how to move forward with her a little bit more of a priority in the dynamic that they were trying to navigate through in their co parenting relationship. And so I just hope for anybody listening, a nanny is so much more than someone that's just going to sit and watch your children. We are an
Yeah.
integrated part of your household, and we are professionals and we care. All of us do this because we love children.
Yeah.
Just like you hire a bookkeeper who loves to do accounting, or you hire a plumber because of their specialty with plumbing. There are those of us out here that are professionals with children. And this is why we eat, breathe, and sleep what we do, because we love kids. And if that means we need to step into maybe not the most comfortable positions navigating between households and divorced parents, it's something we will happily do because at the end of the day, we're helping children.
Building relationships is a natural part of life. But how does the law affect those relationships? Do you want to marry your significant other, but have cold feet from the many divorce horror stories out there? Are you preparing for a custody battle against your ex? That is where modern legal comes in. We offer education and knowledge about the law when it affects the relationships near and dear to your heart. To learn more about how family law affects your family, book a consultation with an attorney of our modern legal team by visiting our website, emailing us, or calling us at 704-286-6302. Check out the information about Modern Legal Services at modernlegalnc.com.
Well, your structure for your network, and you said a moment ago that you've served families across the United States. So, do you have nannies in multiple different states and cities?
Absolutely. I network with nannies all over the country. And some cities obviously are more prevalent than others, LA, Manhattan. There are several in North Carolina where I'm from that I still network with, Florida, Texas, and everywhere in between. I'm constantly finding my way to connecting with all of these professionals. I just actually interviewed with a lovely rotational nanny the other day. Hillary, if you're listening, hello. She's an outstanding professional and she's worked with families all over the country too. And I just feel like, karma is absolutely real, especially in this industry. I've put so much good karma out there in the work that I've done personally with families and in my networking with nannies that it's kind of one of my favorite things to say about my company is that I pair good people with good people. And I just have a knack for talking with people, figuring out who they are. And I've had many moms tell me I'm the CIA of nanny background checks because of all of my vetting processes. And it's not because I don't trust the people that are coming to me. It's just such a wonderful way to get to know people. And, I've just been so blessed to network with people all over this country that are so happy to take care of children, whether they're live in, live out, full time, part time, household manager, mother's helper, you name it. It's just good people coming to me, and then I help them find more good people to go work with.
Modern Legal, we're based here in Charlotte, and we serve North Carolina and South Carolina. But, I'm hopeful that there are listeners throughout the country that listen to this message because, to your point, it's so important to have an environment that's safe for children, and nannies can foster that, especially in a separation and divorce situation.
Oh, yes.
So when you say you get involved with divorced couples, when do you get involved? Like generally, when do you see nannies being hired in these situations? Because I can understand the childcare responsibilities between parents that are living together versus parents that are living separately. I mean, totally different situations.
That's a great question. And every family is different. Every dynamic is different. So sometimes parents will contact me, they're still living together, they're discussing the idea of separation. And so we bring a nanny in to kind of help while they figure out how they're going to go about doing that and those beginning logistics. However, most of the time it's after the parents have already divorced and they're living in two households. And I'm seeing, one parent is really struggling with the brunt of responsibility and feeling like they never get to have any fun with their children because their ex is kind of dropping the ball on all the logistics, all the scheduling, and all of the ins and outs that need to happen during their week or their time with the kids so that by the time the kids come back, they're drained, they're not on a routine, they're not on the schedule. And so parent A is really feeling like they are shouldering all of the responsibility of this new dynamic. And, I think that incorporating a nanny during that time really helps, especially a lot of the moms I talk to kind of just breathe a sigh of relief of it's okay. My nanny is going to go with the kids to their dad's house this week. She's going to help them make sure they're fed, make sure they're sticking to the routine so that they're not tired when they come back to me and they're handled over there. So I can kind of just relax and let go a little bit. And I think that as women, not to dish on men too much, but as women, and it's in our nature to be nurturers. And I think it's really easy for us to kind of get swept up in making sure every little I is dotted and every T is crossed, especially with children, and not really giving space to delegate or let go for our ex-husbands or our ex-partners and kind of letting them kind of run things their way too, which is totally fine. Everybody's different. But in my experience, I think a nanny is really beneficial in creating that consistency between both households because children thrive in routine and consistency. So if you have one household that is just chaotic, no routine, no schedule, no healthy food, things are just slipping through the cracks, it's really stressful
Mhm.
environment for them. And you're going to see behavioral issues, and then they're going to come back to the parent A's house and kind of have that week to recuperate. And then, boom, they're going to be put back through that cycle again. So, a nanny is really, really wonderful at just creating that structure for both households. And it's not because a nanny wants to come in and make any rules or changes. Typically, for us, we come in and follow suit with what we've been told and asked to do. But in many cases, we're able to say, hey, I noticed that your ex-husband's house, the kids are going to bed at like 10 o'clock and they're exhausted and they're acting out, whereas at your house, they're going to bed at a good time. Is it okay if we kind of have a conversation about how to make the consistent schedules between households? Because that makes my life easier and it makes your children happier. So, kind of a long answer to your question. It could
Mhm.
be at any point in the process, but I am seeing more clients contact me after the divorce has happened, the households have split up, and parents are trying to figure out the best way to move forward without losing their sanity.
I did want to echo one thing you just said, because I see it on my side, is that consistency for children is key. I'm just
Yes.
going to say that one more time. Consistency is key. And I
Yes.
say that especially for the young children, but honestly for all children, because at the end of the day, they've already been in that situation where their parents are no longer in a loving relationship, whatever that may have looked like, whether they were married or not. And now they're bouncing between two households. And that's a lot of change. And even
Yes.
judges recognize that they want to limit the amount of change that is needed in a
Mhm.
divorce for the children's sake. So, for example, judges don't like changing the children's school if it can be avoided, or the primary care physician, or the dentist, or a whole host of other things that maybe we can keep stable or consistent. But to your point, you're going to have differences in two households, regardless if it's mom, dad, or some other third party. And it's so important to have that stable person for that child's situation to maintain that consistency. And I love how you brought up the example regarding going to bed, because bedtime, could be healthy for some children at 7:30, could be healthy for other children at 8:30 or 9. But as long as you as the nanny can step in and say, hey, we're going to do it at 8 o'clock at both households, then it
Yes.
creates that consistency for that child's sake.
We're advocates for children, and I think that's the easiest way to label who we are. And the first and foremost thing we'll do is, if we see something that is potentially affecting your children, who we are also growing very close to and love very much, we're going to talk to you about it, and we're going to come to you with just pure love in our hearts of, hey, we noticed this is happening, we wanted to bring it up to you. Please let us know how we can help or what needs to be changed so that this can be better for everyone involved. And that is the professional nanny that I am, was, and who I bring into my network. So it's important for us to advocate for these children.
In being an advocate for children, you are thereby helping parents learn to co-parent.
Absolutely. I remember there was one family I nannied for in Oregon, and they had divorced, and it was like, not to talk poorly on the father, but it was like, if it wasn't his time, he did not do anything with the kids. He's like, well, it's not my scheduled time, so I don't really care. And I remember how frustrated the mom was with that, because she had to go back to work and get a career going so she could afford her household and keeping track of the children, because of course alimony wasn't going to cover all of those expenses. And so there was a lot of frustration in that day of just like, well, my ex-husband was supposed to handle this, but because it's not his day technically, he let the ball drop. And because I was available as the nanny, I was able to make sure that all the plates were kept in the air. And the kid, I think he had a doctor's appointment after school or something like that. And I was able to kind of pivot my schedule to help with that instance. But I see a lot of that of, well, whose day is it? And if it's not my day, then don't expect me to go out of my way to help. And it's so disheartening to see, because this is your kid, these are your
Mhm.
children. And I think that there are a lot of opportunities in divorces that may not be civil, and there's a lot of anger and frustration and contentment between the divorced parents, that they're allowing that anger to overrule making sure their
Mhm.
children are well cared for and kept as a priority. And I think that that's something that we really fight a lot of in our industry, especially with divorced parents, is that angst of, well, it's her day to handle it, so she needs to figure it out, instead of offering that healthy communication. So nannies are excelling in that area. Nannies are able to go, hey, Mr. Smith, I get it's not your day, but this is your son and he has a doctor's appointment. And it just so happens that he's close to your office. Is there any way you could help us with the schedule? And more often than not, when you involve that third party, usually both parents are a lot more respectful and civil because they don't want to embarrass themselves either. So we're seeing a lot of that happening too, which is actually really nice, but
Yeah.
it's a case by case basis.
Of course, and I get it. Emotions are high. I
Yes.
also like to tell my clients, especially if they're very well educated or doing really well in their career, I remind them that when you're going through a separation and divorce, you are going through a realm of grief similar
Mhm.
to losing a loved one, like someone has passed away. And
Yeah.
in that realm, you really can't act always rationally. Like your brain is not wired to act 100% on point. And so, to your point, I think having a nanny come in and have that conversation with that one parent who's saying, "Oh, it's not my time," and the nanny saying, "Well, we're close to your office. This is your kid too." It grounds that person and it reminds the parent, "Hey, you're a parent too, and this is about the kid. This has nothing to do with the
Yes.
ex, nothing to do with the divorce, nothing to do with what happened during the marital relationship or romantic relationship that led to its dissolution. And
Mhm.
more importantly, it's about, hey, refocus, pay attention on your kid."
Yes, it's such a big thing, and I feel for all the nannies out there that are juggling this delicate act, but they are doing phenomenal work. So if any of you are listening, we see you, we notice you, and thank you. And
Mhm.
for the parents that are listening, just I hope you're able to hear what a benefit it is to bring someone in with this kind of professional skill to help you and your children. It's really monumental in their development from what I'm seeing on my side of things. And you're welcome to give me a call and talk to me about this. I'll talk to you about it all day.
I love that. Now, let's shift the conversation a little bit, just because, as you noted earlier, there are families with a number of different financial circumstances. Like
Sure.
you have the families, okay, they can support not only a nanny, but a nanny for the next 5 generations. On the flip side, you have the individuals who, they need just a little bit help while they go run out and do some household chores and they just can't bring the children along. So, can you touch on the financial aspect and maybe the return on investment as well?
Sure, that's a really big point to bring up. Something that I'm constantly asked about in what I do. And so there's two ways to really look at it. The first way I really enjoy talking about the ROI on hiring a nanny is time and hours in your week. So based on the math that I have calculated through my many years of experience, I'm seeing anywhere from 50 to 60 hours returned to you with a full-time nanny helping you. That's everything if from delegating to laundry to transitional management after school to running errands. You can even hire a nanny to do menus and meal prep and grocery shopping and kind of just remove those mundane tasks off your plate. The one thing I really talk to my clients a lot about is these children only have one mom, one dad. So by removing these tasks from your plate that are taking up time and that mental load, even if you are able to be present with your child, you're still thinking, well, I need to change the laundry over and I need to get dinner started at 5:30 so we can eat by 6. By hiring a nanny to handle all of those tasks, you are actually getting more time to just be present with your children. And I had a good friend tell me the other day that you really get 10 years with your children where they think you are Superman or Superwoman and you're the coolest person in the world to them. And then they turn into a teen and you'll lose them for a little bit. But at the end of the day, you have a shadow, you have a best friend, you have somebody that wants to just be with you. There's no judgment. There's no, well, you're not giving me enough of your attention, so I'm not going to give you of mine. There's no games with children. They just want to be with you. And so by hiring that nanny to handle all of those tasks that you really don't need to be doing, you're allowing yourself to have that time and that freedom to be present with your kids so that you can, be there during these really pivotal parts of their growth. And especially after going through a divorce, you're there to offer them time, which is something that's all they really want from you.
Mhm.
They don't care
Yeah,
if you're going to go buy them the latest and greatest video games. I mean, I'm sure they'll be happy, but they're going to want to play with you. Or,
yeah,
you could go buy a board game and hand it over to your many children if you have several and hope that they go play together, but they're going to want you to be involved. And so, having those hours returned every week for you to delegate how you'd like to spend them with your children is just monumental in their growth, their behavior, their confidence levels, their ability to communicate. I'm just seeing across the board so many benefits of parents being present with their children. If you want to look at it from a financial standpoint, you can hire a nanny from anywhere from 2 hours a day to full time. It could be anywhere from $1,200 a month to $5,000 a month, depending on any special credentials, certifications. Obviously, those that are handling special needs children are going to have a lot more credentials. Night nurses have a lot more credentials. Those are certain things that you want to calculate when you're budgeting for this. But a nanny is more than feasible for a lot of families out there if they just look at their budget. And I do network with a lot of really wonderful financial advisors that have helped many of my clients see that it's not only feasible, but it's more than doable. And of the clients that have hired nannies and made room for this quote unquote expense, they are so much happier across the
Mhm.
board. They feel like their homes are full of peace. They feel like their relationships with their children are stronger.
Mhm.
There are many cases where if you have many children, you can have the nanny take, especially if you're divorced, if you have 3 children, the nanny could take the younger two and you could go spend one-on-one time with your eldest child for a couple hours once a week and then rotate to the middle child and then the youngest. And then they're still feeling like they're having that one-on-one time with you, which is absolutely pivotal for their expansion, developmental um, growth as they become young humans. Is what you're essentially doing. You're raising the next generation of humans to go out into the world and help care for other humans and be a part of society. And I think that really starts with the bond that you create with your kids. And I see it across the board with children that I've worked with, that have contacted me after years and years after I've worked with them. Just the amount of stability and love and the things that I've taught them. I had one little girl contact me, after her mother had passed away. I became her nanny. And she contacted me not too long ago because I taught her and her brothers to scrape, rinse, and load their plates after dinner. And so they created this song about it. And to this day, she's in college and she wrote to me and she's like, I still repeat the scrape, rinse, load song that you taught me when I clean up after dinner. And now there's other people in my dorm that are singing it. And it's just, nannies, again, just to harp on that point, we love children. We do this for our love of children.
Yeah.
And, I see a lot of teachers leaving the teaching industry to become nannies. And so, there's a lot of parents out there that are benefiting by having these, teachers that are credentialed with early childhood education coming into your home that are teaching your children how to go through their homework. And then just think, you don't have to struggle with homework anymore because you
Yeah.
basically have hired a teacher to come handle your household and do homework. And you can hear and see the delight on your kids' faces because they're getting it, because they
Yeah.
basically have a private tutor. And so, it's just, I encourage anyone that's on the fence, give me a call and I can talk to you about a lot of opportunities and examples I've seen of how a nanny has drastically turned around the development and the inspiration in children, especially those that are undergoing a divorce household situation.
I can tell the passion in your
Yes.
voice and in your face of anyone seeing this on our YouTube channel. And it's so heartwarming because there is that need for children, regardless if the parents are divorcing or not, because there are so many obligations that parents have to deal with. We're in a society that a lot of parents, both parents are working, or at least maybe one parent is a stay-at-home parent, but they're still doing something on the side to help. Or go one step
Absolutely.
further, even if you have a stay-at-home parent, there's a lot of laundry when you have kids, right? So
Oh, yes, it's never ending. And, I've worked for stay-at-home parents and just having that extra set of hands to juggle. I worked for a family with 5 children. How can you be in 5 different places at one time?
yeah.
Even with 2 parents, you still having that third person around to help is huge when getting things handled and taken care of. It's just a big help. No matter where you are in your parenting journey, we're here for you.
With that stated, I so appreciate your passion first and foremost, but also sharing this critical information to our listeners. Can you put a little plug about where our listeners can find you online and elsewhere?
Sure. You are all welcome to go to my website, premiernannynetwork.com. You can email me, premiernannynetwork@gmail.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, anywhere. I'm happy to talk to you even if you have questions. If you want to see about any other resources, I'm putting together a resources page and trying my best to just offer an outlet and an offering for anybody at any stage, at any financial level, to know that this is something that is totally feasible and something that'll really drastically benefit and change your home life.
Well, thank you, Brynn. It was exciting to have you here on the Legal Lounge,
Thank
and
you.
we look forward to learning more about all you do in the years to come.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our discussion. To learn more about me and the Modern Legal team, go to our website, modernlegalnc.com, or check out the links in our show notes to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can also call us at 704-286-6302. If you have been intrigued by the conversation and would like us to continue our discussions, please subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. See you next time.